I got along very well with President Obama. I got along very well with President Biden. And now I want to get along also very well with President Trump. The relationship between Brazil and India, it has to be very strong. My theory is the theory of Mahatma Gandhi. The role model of my life is Gandhi.
Hello and welcome. This is a special broadcast, and on 5 Live today, we are taking a bit of a break from regular programming to bring you a glimpse of an extremely fascinating conversation that India today has secured. At a time when the world order seems to be shifting almost by the hour, every day brings a new war, a new trade deal, a new tariff, and then also there is churn. Our equations with every nation, big or small, matters more than ever now. One such significant nation is actually Brazil, the largest economy in Latin America, a founding voice of BRICS, a country that believes that Global South must shape the next chapter of global power, just like India. And at the helm of it all is one man. That man on your screen over there in the hot seat. Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva. For India, Lula, President Lula as we say, is not a distinct figure. He worked closely with former Prime Minister Manmohan Singh in shaping the early BRICS vision. He has backed India's claim for a permanent seat at the UN Security Council. He sees New Delhi not just as a co-author of a more multipolar world, but for energy, agriculture, to defense and climate diplomacy. India-Brazil ties are no longer just peripheral, they are strategic. As great power rivalries intensify, as supply chains are redrawn, as Global South demands a stronger voice, the conversation between Brasilia and New Delhi becomes even more critical. Now, with that context, let us bring to you a world-exclusive chat with the president there of Brazil. President Lula has had a 52-minute candid, direct, no-holds-barred conversation with India today. And in it, he spoke on BRICS, on Trump, on Gandhi, the capture of, the so-called Venezuelan, as well. And also, one of my favorite parts of that interview over there, it's not just Putin and Kim Jong-un. Lula also has plans to live till 120 years and just might, with this very regimented fitness routine that he has spoken about in detail in that conversation. So all that and much more is what we are going to unfold on the program today. And that, of course, cannot be had without our brilliant reporters and editors. I'm joined now in this conversation with Geeta Mohan. Hello.
Hi.
Have you recovered?
Still reeling under the fact that we're not meeting world leaders, Sonal. These are statesmen.
Yes.
Putin, Lula, they're statesmen.
Yeah. And, Geeta, when we're chatting about this interview in the newsroom, and firstly, congratulations. What an interview it is. I heard the whole 52 minutes over there. And you described to me that it is not just meaty, consequential, it's packed with headlines.
Yes.
You want to go with what was your favorite line out of the interview?
Well, we thought he would be speaking of a lot of people, a lot of things, a lot of leaders. But when he said Mahatma Gandhi and non-violence, that really stuck. That's a man who's seen the world, has lived through. He said, I've grown with the ideas of Mahatma Gandhi, and that Mahatma Gandhi is his inspiration. So talk about non-violence, and he actually said that when I go meet Trump, I'd like to take that. I'd like to take Gandhi with me. That was significant. Comes from India, sitting on Indian soil, talking about Mahatma Gandhi.
Is it a good time for me to ask if your Brazilian has been brushed up after that interview?
Oh, well, no. Not at all. Although it was brilliant because to have somebody who is over 80 And that alert, look at him, how sharp and how fit.
Fitness is something I paid specific importance to when I heard that entire interview. We'll come to that as well. But I think for me, the headline was clearly what he said on Trump. He was very categorical about it. And, you know, how do we even start that? You know now that, you know, Brazil and United States have had this kind of complicated relationship, just like India has also had. But he handled it rather well. Yes. You want to give us the exact question you asked, and then we'll go play an excerpt of that.
Well, yes. The fact that it's a very difficult... So I said, okay, let's talk about Trump. It's a very difficult relationship. How are you handling it? Navigating that space with Trump. And what do you think of Trump? Define Trump for us.
Yeah.
And he had a very candid... In fact, he was very candid, Sonal. He was not like most of the leaders who are very guarded these days about Trump. He was rather candid. I did not expect the answers to be this fiery.
Yeah, we'll get to the answers and let the suspense brew for a little bit more. But it's not just Trump that he spoke about. He spoke about Prime Minister Modi as well. What was the big highlight on that front?
The fact that he sees what Prime Minister Modi wants to do and what Prime Minister Modi's vision is. So when you're talking about the West, and the Global South, he now makes a clear distinction. Most of the leaders from the Global South make that distinction, Sonal, where they say that this is an alternative. And that's why he spoke at length about BRICS. This is an alternative. And in that alternative realm, as is Brazil, so is the Premier of India. Very, very important. So he says that if the world needs a better, brighter future, it comes with better, greater partnership with Prime Minister Modi. Yeah. So that's the importance he's attaching to Prime Minister Modi, and this is just before his bilateral meeting with Prime Minister Modi. So, and he's come with a massive delegation, Sonal, about 30, 40 business leaders at the business forum today, and they're looking at changing the number game in trade between India and Brazil. So that, again, you know, the significance Brazil attaches to India today, as opposed to in the past, but also looking at how they want to be part of the growth story. Yeah. And India is the growth story. So he says it all. He says it all.
Yeah, he's not minced his words at all. But let's try and give our viewers a bit of a teaser at this point. Let's try and show you a little bit of a snippet of how President Lula actually responded when India Today asked him on his relationship with Donald Trump and his trade ties with the United States. Listen in.
And I enjoy to be respected too.
That's a very strong message, not just to President Trump, to the world, but to your people as well, that you want critical minerals to be produced and to finally be manufactured into a final product within Brazil. Having said that, let's then talk about President Trump and your relationship with him. From I have no relationship with Trump to a meeting to now you're headed to the United States of America probably next month. How do you define your relationship with Trump? How do you define President Trump?
Well, I would like to say something that is very serious. I got along very well with President Bush. I got along very well with President Obama. I got along very well with President Biden. And now I want to get along also very well with President Trump. The relationship between Brazil and the U.S. has more than 200 years of existence, diplomatic relations. And I want to continue to be a strong relationship. That's what I want. With the freedom that the U.S. wants for them and the freedom that I wish for Brazil. Brazil has a trade with the U.S. of $80 billion. 40 billion that Brazil exports and 40 billion that we import from the U.S. And there's a surplus in the trade for the U.S. The U.S. represents only 12% of the Brazilian trade balance. Of these 12%, 22% receive the tariffs from Trump. It's not the end of the world. And we did not apply the reciprocity law because we believe in the capacity to negotiate from the Brazilian side. I have my chancellor with me, I have my finance minister, and I have the vice president of the republic that are negotiating with the U.S. Trump administration. And I proposed to him a meeting, person to person in March. Let's see what will be the date, so that we can put things on the table, the issues on the table, and reach the agreement that we have to make. At any level, there's nothing forbidden issue to discuss with President Trump on trade matters. What I cannot put in discussion is my sovereignty and the democracy in Brazil. This is something that belongs to me and my people. But from the trade viewpoint, I'm willing to negotiate with the U.S., as I'm going to negotiate tomorrow with Prime Minister Modi. I came here to discuss with Prime Minister Modi what is good for Brazil and for India in our relation. What can Brazil buy from India and sell to India? What our business sector can build partnerships? Because this is what's important for the people. What will the people gain with all this, with these things? It's not just coming from the U.S. It cannot only the U.S. win to be the winner only alone. What we want, and that's why we advocate multilateralism.
Very clear words, no? Very, very. He's not mincing his words. And you see that very clearly, right? You see that US is one of Brazil's largest trading partners as well. We understand it's a major investor. And I like how his approach with Trump is very strategic. You know, despite the tariffs, despite the threats, and you made sure you pointed that out as well in your question, he still is saying, no, let's make it win-win. Let's make it happen. He's very strategic. He's passionate, but he's strategic. That's what I noticed.
Because he's explaining it. He's saying that Brazil is one of those rare countries with which Brazil has a deficit of trade. With India, India has a huge advantage. America is in deficit. With most countries, America is in deficit. But with Brazil, it's the other way around. No reason why Trump should be complaining, and yet look at the complaints and the problems. There's a time, and I had asked him this, that you once said you have no relationship with Trump. But soon realizing that you need to engage the man, you have engaged him, and now you're headed to America. And he says that very clearly, Sonal. He says that, yes, we are there to negotiate because the fear of a destabilized South America and the Caribbean is too much for Brazil, too much for any country with a recession setting in, or economy not really doing very well anywhere in the world. Wars are not a great idea. Instability is not a great idea. The realization, the understanding, and being pragmatic about it and saying, well, I need to go. Negotiations have not started yet because Maria asked. And he said, no, we have not started talking yet, but we will. And when negotiations begin, we're going to make sure that we negotiate.
That's a strong signaling, right? Yes. That's a very, very strong signaling. But a lot of leaders you meet also tell you, right, that Trump is very different on camera versus off camera.
He said that.
What did he, I want viewers to take a glimpse of this, and this is why programs like these are important. It's not just about what the camera captures. It's about what the reporter really captures, which is what I want to understand from you, Geeta. What was your sense on Trump? We hear wild stories from different people. But what did you gauge?
I think he's going in with his eyes open. But I could sense what we all sense when we talk to most of the leaders today is the unpredictability. So if you ask him, when I said that, what are you going in with? Because it is Trump we're talking about. And is he very different? He was candid about it. Most of the leaders are very guarded about talking and discussing Trump. He said...
Everybody's guarded except Trump.
Except Trump. That's so true. But he also was not. He was not very guarded. He was candid but careful, where he actually went ahead and said that he's very different. Trump is very different when you're engaging him in a closed room without cameras. He's very different. And the moment he's out there, he's different. And he defined it and described it as somebody who is a marketing person, who takes to marketing when he needs to sell something, an idea, a narrative. But when he's in a closed room, he's discussing and he's talking. So I think he's going into that conversation with Trump, meaning business. And the stakes are very high.
Stakes are high, but nobody seems to have cracked it with Trump. We'll see how this one goes. We're all hit and trial, as they say at the moment.
And waiting to see what the agreements really are, because we have signed one and we're waiting to get the fine print.
Yes, the fine print there. That's where all the devil is. But let's move on now to the other burning question of the hour. And, you know, talking about Trump, it takes me to the next question that you guys hit upon in the interview, and it was on Venezuela.
Yes.
How do other world leaders respond is absolutely critical. I loved his answer. He was just bang on. He did not mince his words. We'll play that in a bit. But how significant is his response to Venezuela on the day when Trump has just released a 1-week deadline of sorts for Iran as well? On a day like this, how significant do you think these responses are?
Very significant, because he mentioned all these uncertainties in most parts of the world, including Israel, the Russia-Ukraine situation, so on and so forth. But Venezuela took them by surprise, because they all knew that, you know, there is going to be some action, some movement, and they're not really very great friends with Maduro, especially after the recently held elections where it was closed door and Maduro did not allow observers to enter. Brazil wanted observers, all of that. So they were not very happy with the situation, right? And they really wanted to ensure that, that there's transparency. So they do want elections in Venezuela. They want free and fair elections in Venezuela, but impingement on sovereignty, something that Brazil does not accept. And he said that very clearly. There can be no violation of sovereignty. And he says that is because, and he says there's going to be no tolerance on interference. And that is to the next one, which is Bolsonaro. His own country, where Trump has been advocating that Bolsonaro, the former president, be released. And he said he was on trial. He's in jail and he's going to be there for a very long time. And with Maduro, the fact that the capture happened, he said it's unacceptable. These are not ways.
Don't give in all the details just yet. We're trying to keep the suspense going. We're trying to give you snippets of that interview, because the full interview plays out in the second half of this evening. But for now, take a little bit of understanding on what he said on Venezuela. Here's it.
Known as a very peaceful region, now looking at a bit of trouble. Your backyard is being threatened. Your country has been threatened by Trump administration, by President Trump himself. How do you see the action of America in Venezuela? You have interests there. Are you looking at going back with oil in Venezuela? How do you look at what has happened in your backyard?
Well, Venezuela, Brazil's position is very clear. It was clear in our position when Russia invaded Ukraine, which we condemned, as in Gaza, and it is very clear now for Venezuela too. We cannot accept that a head of state of one country could invade another country and capture the president. This is unacceptable. There's no explanation for this, and it's not acceptable. Now, Maduro is arrested, and now let's see, to consolidate the democratic process in Venezuela, that this is the interest of what matters now, is to reestablish democracy in Venezuela. That's the most important thing. And I believe that if Maduro has to be tried, he has to be tried in his country, not a trial abroad. It's not acceptable. The interference of one nation over the nation of another nation. In the 60s, Latin America suffered many military coups d'etat. Chile, Argentina, Uruguay, Brazil. All of them suffered military coups. And those that had influence was the American embassies of these countries in Latin America that had a lot of influence. There was no tradition of demilitarization. So Venezuela was a negative experience. And I hope that the issue in Venezuela could be solved by the people of Venezuela, and not by foreign interference of any other country. It has to be solved by the people of Venezuela.
Simple, straightforward. His take is very, very simple. Maria is also with us. Both of them were there. So, Maria, quick thoughts that I was trying to get from Geeta before this was, for me, the
Maria, first don't miss
sharpest
the set.
answer.
First, don't miss the
Yes.
set.
Yeah, it's a replica.
We are sitting exactly where
We were not, this was not meant to be, this was not meant to be revealed that this will be a replica. But okay then, now that Geeta has decided to,
We just saw snippets. We just saw snippets, Sonal.
We've got to switch their seats though. Oh my God. Now I'm getting into, all my production
the finer
hat is on.
details that I was sitting here and
yes,
Maria
the
was
production
sitting here.
hat is on and I can see that there's a bit of a switch, but we live with that. We live with that because content is king. Let's remember that, okay? So let me come back to Venezuela on this one. His answer really was bang on. What did you make of it?
So I'll talk about the larger AI summit and what India has managed to do. And in that context, we should look at this interview, which Geeta has managed for the channel. The message is very clear that India's moment is here and the world is watching India. You have top heads of state right here, President Macron, President Lula. You have the best minds in AI world right here in India. You have had, Sam Altman to Qualcomm CEO, all of them have given interviews to India today as well. So I'm coming back after interviewing Qualcomm CEO. Cristiano Amon will be on air shortly as well. Look, the fact that the president has chosen to speak in India is also his message that is going about his equation with Prime Minister Modi. And I think towards the later part of the interview, which is very, very fascinating, where he sums up the equations and relationship with Prime Minister Modi, and he speaks about the future of India and Brazil. He says that India and Brazil are on the path of becoming economic superpowers. While he acknowledges that in present times, there are a lot of trade deals which are happening between India and Brazil. And to give you some numbers, because he has given that, Brazil can have only $15 billion of foreign trade with India. We need to get it to, right now it is around $15 billion. It has to go up to $30 to $40 billion of trade. That is the size of the economy and the two countries. So there is a lot of mutual respect here and a lot of praise on Prime Minister Modi's governance model, what he has said and achieved in the context of AI in the global south. And at the same time, Sonal, there's a lot of convergence of ideas between the two leaders is what was on display as much. When we spoke specifically in the context of what Prime Minister Modi has said, that AI should be child safe and should also have protection from families. They should have a say in AI that the children use. He said that, yes, that is indeed the way forward. And there is a need for having a young generation which stands protected from the other side of AI, the negative side of AI.
Specifically to the Brazil-India relationship, I think India and Brazil do not have a very contentious relationship, right? There has been no major sort of bilateral dispute either. The relationship is pretty pragmatic. It's very complementary in how we are geographically set up as well. It's increasingly strategic. Before we go forward with understanding that in a little bit more detail, let's play out a bit of an excerpt there for our viewers to see what exactly did President Lula say on India and relationship with India when we come back for reactions. Take a look.
The relationship between Brazil and India, it has to be very strong. I made the first strategic agreement between Brazil and India in my first term. And now in this trip here, I want to reinforce my relationship with India. We're bringing 300 businessmen and women from Brazil. There's more than 300 businessmen and women from India in the business forum tomorrow that will meet. Our cultural, political, trade, and economic relationship to be very strong. We want to learn with India, and we want to teach what we can ever teach to India. We want to sell and buy. We want to show our experience of our companies with the Indian companies to make joint ventures and partnerships. Brazil can't have only $15 billion of foreign trade with India. We need to get to $30, $40 billion of trade because of the size of our countries and the economy.
And are you quantifying it, that this is the amount that will come with the business delegation that has come?
40 bilhões? Well, no one cannot buy what it does not know. So, when I decided to come to India and bring a big business delegation, strong delegation, is because we are highly interested to learn what the evolution that India is having on the space industry, on the defense industry, on the pharmaceutical industry. India has a lot to teach us, and we want to learn and exchange experiences. And for Brazil, because Brazil is also a great consumer market. Brazil is the only country in the world that has more than 100 million inhabitants, that has a single national health system, that has a purchasing power that is extraordinary for medication and pharmaceuticals to treat the health of the people, the government procurement. And we want India to get to know our potential so that the business sector of India could feel comfortable to make investments in Brazil or to build partnerships. Our Embraer aircraft manufacturing company is going to open a manufacturing aircraft plant in India. This is what has to happen between Brazil and India. We just can't rely on the U.S. or rely only on China. We want that our economies grow, because if they grow, the trade flow will also grow, and it's going to be good for India, and it's going to be good for Brazil. And so we're the two largest democracies of the global South. And so we have to give good examples. And since my relationship with Prime Minister Modi is a very good relationship, it's very good, and I respect tremendously the governance of his administration. And I am sure that he also respects my governance in Brazil. And so we have to take advantage of this moment to make things happen, make it happen.
I respect his governance, and I hope he respects mine as well. I'm pretty sure that he respects mine. So those are the big words there coming in, as importantly Maria and Geeta were also pointing out earlier. But I want to move on to another chapter now, which was really interesting, and I love that you guys picked it up, which was on the conversation of currency and de-dollarization. You know, this is so important, so significant. Because one of the biggest conversations at the moment has been around Brazil and BRICS. BRICS is apparently creating, on way to creating, will be creating very soon.
He dismissed it outrightly.
All of it, Sara suspense pehle bata de rahi hai Maria. Wait for it, na. Let me build up.
Wait for it. She's
what I'm building up for this. This is not happening, guys.
Wait for it.
Is BRICS creating a new currency? See, what happens is, as reporters, we know so much about the story, and we just assume that our viewers also do. So I'm just trying to bring our viewers up to speed with what's happening on the currency issue, okay? Now, is BRICS creating a new common currency? Is the common currency that will replace US dollar? That has been a massive debate. Now, as Maria has already told you, he has dismissed that completely in this interview. Were you surprised by that? Were you guys surprised by that at all? Were you expecting him to say that?
Okay, so he framed it a little differently. He said, while he believes that when India and Brazil are doing trade, they should do in their respective currencies. And similarly, if there are trade happening between various countries, that should happen between those currencies. But to imagine or think that there can be a world where dollar will not be in circulation as much as it is now, that's not happening. And to the specific question that Geeta asked,
yes,
right?
On BRICS currency.
On BRICS currency.
So basically what's happening over here, Sonal, there's been a lot of conversation on BRICS currency. Should there be a currency? Can countries, because Russia is sanctioned, Iran is sanctioned, and you want to deal with them, you want to work with them. So they said, there are countries that are floating that idea. Dismissing that right now is very significant, because he's going to Washington, D.C.
Yes. Correct. Timing is
So
everything.
the timing is important. Yeah. Before meeting Trump, if he says no, we should look at a currency, would be bad. But he did not shy away from talking about de-dollarization. He said we should go to our national currencies and trade in national currency. Why not? Why not strengthen your own currency? But BRICS currency right now, which is a very sensitive matter for President Trump, he's been talking about it, and he's headed to Washington, D.C.
And in fact, he went on to say that no one proposed to create the BRICS currency. There's been no such proposal also.
He's dismissing it to the extent that there should be no problem on that when he meets Trump.
Yeah. But clearly we all know there's no smoke without fire. We know where it comes from. We now know it's been dismissed. But here is the dismissal on camera. You can see it for yourself.
can BRICS then de-dollarize the global economy?
She means the US dollar.
Well, let me say something to you. I respect very much the decisions that are made by the countries. I advocated that it's not necessary that a trade agreement between Brazil and India would have to be done with US dollars. What I defend is that we can use our own currencies. It's difficult. Yes, it is difficult, but we can try. No one has to rely on the dollar, but you can't also undo this system overnight. You have to take into account the difficulties of each nation. What I believe in concrete terms is that many goods, I'm not thinking about this now. For a long time I've been thinking about this. My first term in Brazil, we established with Argentina the purchase from small enterprises in Brazilian currency and Argentinian currency. This is a process that we have to discuss. What is more advantageous for a country, for Brazil, and what is more advantageous for each country that negotiates with other countries? Obviously, I understand the reasons of the Americans that they don't want to create other currencies because the dollar is the world currency, the strongest currency we have in the world. And so I understand their concern. The bottom line is that they took over the strength of the dollar and they created an international currency that impacts any country. So we have also to take into account how we're going to do this. It's not a fantasy. It's not something that you can do overnight, but it's something that we have to start to think it over, and that Brazil and India could make their trade. Do we need the dollar? That's the question that we have to ask. Or can we exchange the trade with our own currencies? And so our business sector, everybody has to think about that, and let's see what is the best for us. We do not have to be locked of things to the past. Let's try to innovate and move to the future to see if it improves the living standards of our people. If it's not to improve the living standard, we won't do anything, but I believe it can improve our living standard.
Okay, so those were a few glimpses, but can we move to off-cam chats now for a bit? Can I get both of yours perspective on what the dynamics was like, how big was the team? And I'm very curious about how this live translation happens. I know Geeta has prior sort of experience in this. She had that with Putin as well.
And a few other leaders.
And a few other leaders. But how exactly does it happen? Is there a translator there? And are you all also wearing earpieces when this happens? Yeah.
So it's very interesting because when he's speaking, the interpreter can't be in the same room. Because otherwise the noise will travel and his mic will pick up the noise. It is simultaneous translation, interpretation, which means he's sitting, we have our earpieces, the interpreter is sitting in the other room. There's another room with all our switchers and all the production team sitting over there. He's sitting there, and when I'm asking the question, it is real-time interpreted to the president in Portuguese. And when he's responding, it's real-time interpreted to us in our ear. So if we have a counter, we can also, do a counter question.
Yeah, because it seemed like
which
was absolutely
Which is why, Sonal, a lot of people say, are these all questions scripted and prepared? No.
Not a word.
Yeah.
We had a brief informal interaction with him, and it was absolutely off the record, but there's one thing that I can say on the record, which he said. He held us and he said, you can ask me anything you want.
What are you saying?
Yes.
Yeah. What are you saying? We don't meet world leaders like that very often.
Putin?
Yeah.
No questions given in advance.
Wow.
These are statesmen. That's why I said when I began, they're not just leaders, they're statesmen. They've stayed in power. They've seen global politics. They've seen the world change in front of them. They are prepared. He's over 80 and look how alert he is.
Yeah.
He knew what he wanted to say, how he wanted. He said, I'm okay with the comfortable questions and with the uncomfortable ones. You ask whatever you want.
This is like a reporter's dream interview, no? When somebody says, "Haath pakad ke bol diya ki bhai jo puchna hai bebak puchiye."
And again, a lot of people say, "Oh, this is also fake," No, every president needs to be prepared. So we send them themes that we would be focusing on, areas we'd be focusing on, but not specifics. So I could do a counter on Bolsonaro. He did not answer the first time. I countered. I said, no, let's go back. So is Bolsonaro going to be a part of your conversation with Trump or not?
Yeah.
And that's when he responded. He did not respond the first time around. So
Similarly, on the social media question, we persisted. And there was a follow-up on...
What was the question?
So there was a question that we had asked about social media and the communication which happens on social media. Should the world leaders speak over phone, perhaps, rather than making big policy announcements on social media?
Oh, we may know a man who does that. We may know somebody.
So first, he started talking about the negatives of social media and everything. And then I went back to it and I said that we are talking about, do you think that's the right thing to do? And then he said that leaders should have the ability of, picking up the phone.
That he would not do it.
He would not do it.
He would not basically go on X and make an announcement.
Yes,
he was saying leaders should be able to pick up the phone and talk.
Pick up the phone and
And in terms of the team, Sonal, we think that...
But what? I thought we are in midst of AI summit. You'll tell me some AI bot was like translating for you all and all. This is like human, huh? This is the big story.
It's a human who's been with him over 30 years. He almost, I think, can finish the president's sentence without the president having to do it.
His mind.
Just about.
Yeah. And you spoke about how alert he was. Yes. He's given tips, I understand. And he quizzed Maria on what time she wakes up, what is she doing.
But that is not the thing. In the newsroom, when Sonal and I were discussing, she jumped out of her seat. She said, really, he said this? So yes, Sonal, what did he say?
Oh yeah, we'll tell you what he said, and I'll tell you why I jumped out of my seat, because I get very excited about conversations on health, and this one particularly was on longevity. So there was a time we reported here on India Today as well that, this is basically in this conversation, President Lula has said, move aside Putin, move aside Kim Jong-un, I am going to live till 120, and this is the reason why.
I have a pact with God. I have a pact with God that I'll have life till 120, and I'm strong, and I will be strong.
So what exactly was that pact with God, and this strong sense, where does it come from? All those details in this excerpt. Check it out.
You are 80, you say that you have purpose of a 30-year-old. What's your purpose, and what, according to you, is your legacy?
My purpose is the first. First of all is, what time did you wake up today in the morning?
I woke up at 5:30.
5:30 da manhã. And what did you do at 5:30 in the morning?
Because I'm fasting, I read namaz.
Num jejum, então, por isso. I woke up also 5:30 in the morning. I walked 6 kilometers.
Wow.
In Delhi.
And I do this every day.
Outside?
Foi fora de Delhi? Como é que você fez? Na academia? Onde você andou isso? In the fitness, at the hotel, there's a fitness center. And I also walk in Brasilia every day, 5:30 in the morning. I wake up to work out 1 hour of gymnastics and 1 hour of muscle building. Because I don't want to age. I want to be strong. I have a compact with God that I'll live to 120 years.
Wow.
And I heard in the newspaper that the man that was going to live up to 120 years of age has been already born. Maybe I'm that man. Who knows?
Maybe you are. Maybe you are.
All right, so are you both getting inspired by that? Geeta, are you getting up at 5:30 now to do your treadmill walks? Because that's the key.
Not 5:30 for sure. I do a 10:30 p.m. bulletin. So not 5:30 sure. But yes, inspiring. It's a life goal to have somebody sit across you so alert at his age and so fit at his age. So yes, it's a life goal.
I remember this conversation once that we had in the newsroom, in one of the news meetings, and we were talking about whether or not politicians in India are fit And Maria and I were sort of sparring over the fact that I said, oh, politicians also have a tough life. And she said, yeah. I said, it's so stressful. And there were others like, no, come on. What do you mean politicians' life is tough? They have all the perks in the world. But this is a stressful life.
No, and imagine...
This is the way to handle it as well.
And Sonal, he is in India. He's traveling. He's in another country.
Yeah.
And he's following the routine that he does in Brazil.
Yeah. He woke up here at 5:30. He should be jet lagged.
I mean, that's kind of some kind of discipline.
Yeah.
And that's the reason why he says that he has the purpose of a 30-year-old.
Yeah.
And some kind of pact that he has with God.
Yeah. No, I'm sure one way to look at it is that a lot of politicians would like it, right? They would like to feel that they are young. They would also like to feel that they're doing everything in their capacity. But what was your sense? Did it actually come across that he could like walk a mile and just do your thing?
Oh, yes. Absolutely fit. But it's not just that. A lot of politicians might want to be that, but living this life and being this is because you're holding a very important position. You ought to be this. You better be fit. You better be alert if you're in that position. The controversy in America, Sonal, over Joe Biden's health and the last stage of his last phase of his presidency was questionable, not because he was unhealthy or unwell only. The fact that he was not mentally alert. And for that also you need some discipline. And that exercise, that discipline really helps. You ought to be alert if you're leading a nation.
But there's so much more that the leaders do that we will decode later, that they don't tell on cameras, on the bills that they are on the regime they are on how they are, keeping track of everything, including their poops that go in a suitcase, right? All of that information is there, but that's perhaps the story for another day. I want to end on this one. And this is the one where he speaks about Mahatma Gandhi. Quick word, Maria, before we go into that chunk on how that conversation even came about. Him quoting Mahatma Gandhi and saying that I will carry that with me in my conversation with Donald Trump.
Yes, so when we started discussing particularly his visit now, because it's impending, it's going to happen soon, and that's where Geeta started asking that question, and then we were talking more about Donald Trump. And I think he understands that that meeting is a stage of massive negotiations. And there has to be some guiding principles. So the more you speak to these leaders or read about them, in my case, I've been reading about them, Geeta gets to interview them as well.
So does Maria.
So you realize that they have some guiding principles and they turn to Mahatma Gandhi.
Yeah.
Almost like an eternal presence in their life, integral to their life, guiding them through tough times, realizing that how Mahatma reacted to particular events, and then they draw inspiration from
Also,
it.
Maria, at a time when we're looking at conflicts and war everywhere,
Yes.
the
So
fact that
important.
he invoked Gandhi and he said
Gandhi,
non-violence, that was my highlight.
It's more than just a gesture. You're right
Yes.
about that. Let's in fact listen into what he said exactly.
The only thing that I know is that I don't want war. My theory is the theory of Mahatma Gandhi that managed to win and achieve independence of this giant called India through the example, showing an example, motivating the people that India would have to be free. This is the example, the role model of my life is Gandhi. This is the example of things that have to happen. Brazil has no vocation to go to war. We have already many domestic issues. When I took office in 2003, President Bush invited me to participate in the war on Iraq. And I told President Bush that I never met Saddam Hussein. Iraq was located 14,000 kilometers away from Brazil, and that my war was against hunger. We had 54 million Brazilians in hunger in Brazil. We ended with the hunger in Brazil. I stayed 15 years out of power. When I came back now, We had, again, 34 million people in Hungary and Brazil. Again.
All right, talking about legacy, talking about what he leaves behind, how long he lives, his relationship with Narendra Modi and Donald Trump. This has been a power-packed interview, and I have to thank both of you for sharing all those excerpts with us and the behind-the-scene bits also with us. Let's remind you now that what you've seen at the moment are just little pieces and bits of that massive 52-minute interview that India Today has got for you. It's a world exclusive, and we play out that entire bit at 8 o'clock tonight.